Alright, the scene we're going to play with today is the topography map for America. You can find that under the general questions in our discussion board, creating topography with splines. Here's the max file, and if you scroll down to our other post, here's the JPEG file. You're going to need both of those in order to get this scene. So, a few things about creating topography from a bitmap file. Let me show you the bitmap file. So here's your bitmap file, the white parts being the tallest, and the white parts here are the tallest. So this is basically a 3D perspective of that black to white leveled bitmap. Top-down view, you can't see any change in the elevation, so you're going to have to rely on your other three viewports. Change this to perspective view. There we go. Alright, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see that there's some areas that are sharp. We can fix those easily by applying a simple mesh smooth modifier. And when we do that, you can see that they've eroded a bit. Okay. So that's our mesh smooth modifier. It already looks a little bit better. What I'm going to do now is add water to this valley in between, and we can play around with the water a little bit. So by doing that, about how I'm going to do that is by creating a line and basically drawing out a path for the water to go on both sides of this valley. And how I'm going to do that is go to my top viewport, rotate it just a bit to get my orthographic perspective, and I'm going to draw out my lines. I'm going to change the color of this. So a little easier to see. There we go. And you can see that my line should be underneath the mountains in almost every part. It is. Okay, good. So now I'm going to take that line. I'm just going to rename it water level. And I'm going to cap that line. Cap holes. I'm going to bring it up, and you're going to see all we have is a plane. We have a new plane, and so instead of taking a plane and modifying it, I just drew out a plane. There we go. And if I press F4, you can see my edge faces. My plane has no edge faces, so I'm going to want to create a little bit more. How we do this is we just add a tessellate modifier, and that just creates a nice tessellate of edge faces, increases the edge faces of an object. So we go to 4 if we want to. We go to 3. We'll say at 4. Sometimes you can play around with these settings to get what you feel is best. And actually, this is the best. You use your polygons instead of faces, and you will get a little bit better. So what these edge faces are going to give us is a little bit more opportunity to modify the water to our liking. Okay. So there's our water. There's our earth. And we can render this quickly, and we see a river going through 2 valleys. Perfect. First thing we're going to do is open up our material editor, bring in a standard material, and we're going to modify this standard material a little bit. First thing we're going to do is change the color of it to a more watery color. That looks pretty good. 7073 to 113. Good. We're going to apply it to there. A little purple, but that's okay. It's a nighttime shot. Then we're going to open up our maps. First one's reflection, because water reflects. We're going to use a flat mirror reflection. Basically. And we're going to use the bump map. I'll explain that in a second. Go back to our material. Here's our bump map. Now the bump map we're going to use is noise, because that's going to simulate water. Kind of looks like water here, top down. That's exactly what we're looking for. The flat mirror will mimic this bump map. So where this where these bumps go up and down in level, the mirror will copy that. 25 is much too big. That's for much larger waves. So we're going to use something a little smaller. Let's go with 5. Good. Okay. The rest of it looks pretty good. Let's go back to our main material. And the last thing we're going to do is want to make this a little shiny. Specular level, change that to about 95. Glossiness 80. That's pretty standard. Let's take a look at our map now. There we go. So now we've got just a basic water-like visual for our plane. This should probably be a little darker. It looks pretty good. And if you really wanted to, you can drop the opacity a little bit. So now it's see-through. Take this plane. If I drag this down just a little bit, I make it a copy because we don't want them to be the same. I'm going to rename this one gravel. And when I material editor a little bit, I'm going to bring in another standard material. This time, the diffuse map, I'm going to change to cellular. Do I want that cellular? Yeah, cellular's fine. We're going to apply it to that selection. We're going to change the color of the cellular to more rocky color. Looks pretty good. Now let's see what this looks like now. Much too big. These sizes have to be much smaller. Let's try 1. It's getting there. There you go. You just gotta play with this. Now we've got a gravel look underneath the water. And yeah, that's pretty good. And we can raise and lower that however we want. That's not bad. Okay. If I bring this down, you can see there's 2 planes here. One is the gravel, one is the water. A little closer for you. There you go. You can see the 2 planes here. And that just mimics the water being opaque. However, if we wanted to, we can make it less opaque, a little more mercury, and you can see less of the gravel underneath. Or we can make it clear and see almost no wave action and all gravel. It's all about making it how you want it to. I'm going to bring mine about 74. That's fine. Okay. With this material and the bump, we have a phase modifier, and that phase modifier will allow us to animate the wave. And that is one way of animating our water, is by actually animating the material. If you look here, as I move on the phase, it slowly moves how it should. That's one way. The second way is for me to take the water level and apply a new modifier to it called noise, and change that noise to let's see, let's go 3. Bring our scale down quite a bit to about, let's try 20, and let's try animating this. Bring our phase. Animate noise, phase, and there we go. We've got some nice rocky wave action going on. What this will do is allow you to basically what you see animated based on a noise modifier to the water. This is a nice way of animating water. Probably the easiest way and the most in control. If you had bigger waves, 10 for instance, be a little more rocky, you'd want more edge faces to work with that. Or if we go to 1, we have more rolling waves. It's a little bit more visually appealing. So we're going to go with that. So at 0, we're going to turn this on. 0, go there. At 100, we'll have 100. So we press play, and there we go. We've got a nice water action. I'm not going to go ahead and animate the entire thing. That's what you can do. And there's our water. Last thing we're going to do is apply a map to the environment. If you go to rendering in an environment, what we have right now is a black background. You can change this to any color you want. If we had a gray, we now have a gray background. It reflects differently on the water. If we had red, again, reflects differently on the water. What we're going to do, just change to keep this back to black, is actually have a map on that. And that map is going to be a noise map. This is just a little trick. This is how I create what I want to create here. If I open up my material editor, I drag that noise map into it, make it an instance, because what we've changed here, we want to change there. Here's our noise map. There's a few settings that you should just get the hang of if you want to mimic this. Under that noise map, the high should be 0.7, the low should be 0.6. So there's a very slight difference between the blacks and the whites. The high would be black, the low would be white. There's a very small difference between the two. The size of each dot, of each noise wave is 25. We're going to change that to 0.02, virtually non-existent. And we're going to change it to a fractal. This makes the noise more sharp as opposed to smooth. Let's take a look at this. And besides this, we've got a nice star background. There we go. Playing with the levels, fix that. So bring the level down to 1. That's pretty good. So now we've got a nice reflection of our stars. If, for instance, you wanted to make this a little bit different, a little bit more unique, you can go ahead and change the map on one of these two colors. Black, there's more black than white, so let's choose black. Here we can change, or we can add a different material to the black material. We're getting a little bit more advanced here. What I'm going to do is apply a smoke modifier to it. And if we render this right now, you'll see a little smoky atmosphere on the black. So we're getting a nice background here. So that's one way of creating some stars in the background. Water texture animated with noise modifier, multi-layered with opacity, and show you what you can do with the smoke a little bit more. We're going to bring this down, increase the iterations. See what this looks like. No, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Not yet. Let's bump this all the way up. And most of this is trial and error to get exactly what you're kind of looking for. Once you find a system you like, keep it, use it. So this isn't working how I want it to. That's okay. And that's what it's all about, playing with these to make them how you want them. Kind of trying to get this effect. I'm missing the magic. Oh, almost there. That's all right. And then obviously you can change these colors as well. you get a pretty interesting looking background. Here we go. So it looks pretty nice in reflection. Alright, having said that, the next thing we're going to do is play with your renderer a little bit. If you go to rendering and then render setup, you scroll all the way down, it says assign renderer. The default scanline renderer is what you should be used to. This is for the standard maps. Everything renders quickly and renders smoothly, and it's a nice default renderer. However, if you want to get more realistic rendering, you have to change this to something like the Mental Ray renderer. And when you do that, it's going to take a little bit longer to render your scene. This is going to goof up a little bit because the flat mirror is not available in the scanline renderer, and those are quirks that you may run into and learn in the future. But this will render a little bit more realistically, and it does that by providing you better materials. So we're not going to use these standard materials anymore. Down here is the Autodesk Material Library, and this is a selection of materials designed for architecture, for instance. So these are the materials that I created. We're going to scroll down, and under liquid you can see we have options already given to us. We're going to give Murky River a try. I'm going to drag that on our river, make sure I have water level selected, that, and apply to it. Okay, let's render this and see what we get. I'm going to pause my recording. Alright, so I had to delete my noise modifier, and now I can start re-rendering. I had to delete the noise modifier because the noise modifier actually messed up with the material, the Mental Ray material a little bit. It caused some artifacting, and that's going to happen because Mental Ray is designed for high processing images. Sometimes they're not moving, sometimes they are. But in this case it was giving me a problem, and it's something I'll have to address a little later. So this is a nice material, preset material from the Mental Ray Material Library that gives us a smooth look with little effort. Basically I just clicked and dragged onto this. I cancel this because it's going to take well over a minute. You see there's some options here such as wavelength, color, the type of water you have, and then samples, and this is how long it's going to spend actually rendering the material. And if I do this now, it may render a little quicker. It looks like it's rendering about the same. The higher the samples though, the better the picture will come out. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to scroll down to another material. Here we go, stone, granite. We can choose whatever kind of granite we want. I'm going to do something like an unfinished granite. There we go. See what this looks like. It may look bad if that's the case. Well, now I have a more Mars looking scene, but that's okay. You can change this to whatever you want. This is what it's all about, making it unique. But this is a nice tutorial to give you just a heads up on some material editor, Mental Ray rendering, water dynamics, and how to animate water, opacity, the environment map. And obviously if you're going to be doing something like this, rendering time. Now this one frame will take about 45 seconds to render. If you have a scene where you're doing 3 seconds or 100 frames, then expect to be waiting for about a half hour for this to render entirely. So that's not a bad scene. You can see my gravel underneath a little bit. I could bring it closer if I wanted to. I could also put a noise modifier on the gravel so that it sticks out at times as well. Now, Mental Ray is very user-friendly when it comes to light sources. So if we do bring a light source into here, we do do want shadows. I'm going to bring a second light in here for more ambient purposes. Looks pretty good. It's not bad. I'm going to turn off shadows. I'm going to severely bring this down. It's going to be about 20. This will be about 10 times that. Let's see what this looks like. Now you could create a sphere and put a moon bitmap on that sphere, for instance, and just set this light to ignore the sphere so that you get a moon with a reflection underneath. That will work very well. But this lighting will definitely bring a little bit better atmosphere to your scene. And this tutorial does cover quite a bit. But the purpose of it is for you to basically listen to it and follow it and try to pick up one thing or so. And by doing that, you will hopefully get a little better at one thing. I don't want you to follow this tutorial exactly to a T. You won't be able to. But hopefully you pick up some tips, and that's the whole purpose. Much too big. So I'm going to put a moon in here just for the sake of it. As soon as I got this one open as well. Moon bitmap is what I will search. I will save this picture. Go to my material editor. There'll be a standard map, a bitmap. It's going to want to know where my bitmap is. I can go to my pictures. There's my moon. Drag that onto my moon. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. It's not a bitmap you want to bring in. You want to bring in a standard. So yeah, material, standard, bring in a standard. Apologize. The diffuse modifier, we're going to go bitmap. Where's the bitmap? Bitmap's right here, moon. And drag that to my actual moon. And if I go to object properties, I go to general by layer, so now it's by object, and I can change this, and I can change this to receive and cast shadow. So we want it to do neither. We just want it to be there. So now if I go ahead and render this, I'm going to stop this actually. I'm going to self-illuminate this moon a bit. I'm going to go about 60. Let's try that now. Now here's our scene. A few things I'm going to have to change. One, the second light I created for ambient only is casting itself into the reflection, which I don't want. The moon also should be illuminated even higher, so we could just bump that up to 100. I'm going to move that up and out of the scene. And re-render, and you can see that light and effect has changed. The moon's much brighter, and this will render to be a better scene.